A British Latino Network production.
Welcome back to another episode of the British Latino Network podcast. Today we are continuing with our Hispanic Heritage Month series, and today we're speaking to Juliana Lopez. And Juliana Lopez is actually a business development manager for a fintech company. She's originally from Colombia, but she grew up here in the UK, the majority of her sort of childhood. And she's kindly agreed to come on today to talk to us about her background and her journey and all of that sort of information. So we're gonna go and say hello to Juliana. Juliana, how are you doing?
Hey Diego, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to come on. And I was very keen to talk to you today because you've got quite an interesting journey. You've got a quite interesting role as well. You know, you work in business, you're a Latina working in business, in fintech, which is a up and coming industry. So it's very interesting to be able to talk to you and to understand a bit more about your journey and also how you're finding your current role. I'm sure that we've got some listeners who are maybe interested in getting into fintech and maybe, you know, being in a role which is very sort of business orientated. So it's really good to be able to talk to you today.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me. Well, like you said, I'm a business development manager, and feel free, go ahead to ask me as many questions as you want, because it's always good to be able to influence others around you, and mainly being a Latina, growing up in London, like you said, I know sometimes we need a little sort of opportunity to hear how we can engage in the community.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. So what I'll do is let's start from sort of the beginning. So you were born in Colombia, and then from then on you moved to the UK, and then you moved back to Colombia, and sort of that's pretty much how it was, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I was born in Colombia. I was born in Manizales, and I actually came here because all my family had moved to London, and I was about 3, lived there for a few years, and then I went back to Colombia. I went to school there for a few years, and then I came back to the UK, and so pretty much I've been there and I've been back and forth throughout my life. But I'm 25 now, so most of my life, I've kind of been in London.
Okay, cool. And so you ended up going to university at the University of Hertfordshire, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so what did you end up studying then?
So I started university in 2014, and I studied business and psychology, joint honours. Mm-hmm. So my first year was kind of 50-50. My second and third year, I decided to major in business. Mm-hmm. So before university, I decided to take a gap year. And like I said, I've always kind of been back and forth from Colombia and here. So I decided to go to Colombia to take part in, to work with the National Welfare Institute of Colombia. Right, okay. And that was to kind of, to help me become more open-minded and help me decide what I wanted to study. Mm-hmm. And I decided to go for 2 complete opposite fields, and that's obviously psychology. That was very sort of medical, and I've always been very fascinated by the human mind. Mm-hmm. And also to go for business, that is a complete opposite field. Mm-hmm. But I've always kind of, having that, I never really had like many I'd say professional influences around me, apart from my biological dad who lives in Colombia, and mm-hmm. he always kind of encouraged me to go for like the business path, and mm-hmm. so that was kind of why I went through that as well.
Right. Okay. So talk to me a bit about the time that you were in Colombia. So you were actually working with the National Welfare Institute, you said?
Yeah, that's right.
So how was that like? What was that like for you?
Oh, it was amazing. So I've always loved to give back to my community and especially work with young children. And obviously I love the fact that I come from Colombia, and there's a lot of diversity in Colombia, and unfortunately we are a developing country and there are still a lot of people in need. And so I I always like to challenge myself and use what I can to help others around me. So in that case, it was me teaching English as a foreign language in Colombia through the National Welfare Institute. So they had this farm, as they called it, where the children that had been abandoned, that had been abused, so they lived in that farm. So they attended school there and they lived there. And so I was just a volunteer to help them with their English lessons and a lot of the after school workshops and stuff like that, decorating this school for Christmas. So that was a very rewarding experience. So yeah, it was just amazing to be able to learn from these kids' experiences and learn from what they've been through. And yeah, it was very rewarding.
Yeah, and you found that influenced more or less sort of what route you went down later on at university then?
Oh yeah, like I said, I've always been very fascinated by the human mind and the fact that, in my perspective, I think all humans are the same, as in we're all humans, but we're all different at the same time. So being able to see life from that perspective in Colombia, being able to see kids that haven't been so as fortunate as I have been, kind of helped me to and encouraged me to know that I wanted to learn more and more about the human mind and how we actually work and what leads us to make certain decisions in life and how our childhood kind of affects our future. And yeah, so yeah, I'd say partially it did lead to why I chose to study psychology.
Yeah, okay. And how did you find the experience at university?
I would say it was challenging at times because being out of education for a year, obviously I was at college before that and studied A-levels, and being out of education for a year meant that I had to get used to going back into education after one whole year. So yeah, at first it was challenging. I had to work. I had a part-time job. So yeah, I'd say it was challenging, but I always like to turn the negatives into positives and challenging situations into rewarding experiences. So yeah, it did turn a bit challenging, but I always try to see the positive, like I say.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Especially, sorry, I forgot to add, especially because I would say that when I was a little girl, I'd say that I've always thought that I was shy, and socially I would find myself I'd find it difficult to maybe initiate conversations or stuff like that, if you get what I mean. So like I said, starting fresh, going back to education, I didn't have, most of my friends had already started university, so it was me kind of, I'm starting all fresh, I'm starting from zero, like from scratch. And so I didn't have many friends, so that meant that I had to start making new friends. And so I also decided to live on campus because I wanted to kind of push myself and challenge myself to come out of my comfort zone. So ever since I moved out of my mum's house, ever since I started uni, I've lived on my own ever since then, and I don't regret it at all, because like I said, it's to me, it's all about coming out of my comfort zone, and that helps me a lot.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's actually what I was gonna sort of mention, is that it seems like from what you were explaining, it definitely pushed you past your comfort zone. So, it sort of made you, I guess, accelerate your development. You started to obviously pick up new skills. And like you said, you sort of thought of yourself as a sort of shy person, but then eventually you found yourself making new friends, new relationships at university. So, yeah, I can imagine how that was a very positive experience for you.
Yeah, exactly. It was very much. And of course, after spending almost a year in Colombia, experiencing so many new things and stuff, it just made it easier for me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. And so, what was so you graduated in 2017. What was
hmm
the aim? So once you were about to finish your course, or when you finished your course, what were you hoping to do with your degree?
Okay, so I started university always with the mentality of I wanted to graduate with a first class, and that was because I thought that was going to mean that it was going to be easier for me to get a job.
Hmm.
Right, so I never really had a plan of action. I never really had clear like exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I just knew, which is maybe why I decided to go for two complete different fields, business and psychology.
yeah.
But I kind of when I the start of second year, when it came to deciding whether I wanted to major in business or psychology, I decided to go for business because I thought there'll be more opportunities. And by that time, I'd already met more people, and my plan was always to go and take a placement year.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, sometimes plans don't actually fall into place when you plan ahead so much. So
Yeah,
I just ended up graduating in 2017.
yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, it took me 2 years to get a job after I graduated from university.
Hmm.
I managed to secure a place on a graduate scheme to start in 2018 as a trainee wealth advisor.
Hmm.
And however, my family, again due to family reasons, I ended up going back to Colombia because my nan ended up spending Christmas here, and she ended up going back to Colombia in a very critical situation health-wise.
Right.
And I decided to go back and stay with her, and I ended up staying there for 7 months. I did take part in an internship with a company as a commercial and marketing assistant for a
Right.
couple months. That helped me a little bit, but then again, it kind of I was off track because I think it happens to everyone sometime in our lives. We feel lost
Hmm.
somehow, and sometimes it's a bit hard, difficult to redirect yourself and kind of know how and when you want to go back on track.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was my time to come back to the UK, and I came back and I reapplied for the same graduate scheme, and I was unsuccessful. I applied for so many graduate roles, even for assistant, for like admin roles and stuff like that, and I was unsuccessful. There was many points in that time where I wanted to give up, and I said to myself, I'm not going to apply. And I feel like sometimes it's okay to give yourself a break, but it's not okay to give up completely.
Yeah.
So I think a point came where I had, when you've got a feeling like, yeah, this job is mine, and based on the feedback that I got from the manager who interviewed me, she said to me on the spot, yeah, you're going to have this job. I'm going to say yes. Unfortunately, we've got a last stage, which is a last final interview with another manager, and then he decides whether we take you on or not. But from my side, it's a yes. So in my head, I had already made this idea of like, yeah, I've got this job. And then a couple of weeks later, I get a phone call saying that I was unsuccessful. So at that point, it was just like I just felt completely broken. It was just like, that's it. I was like, that's it for me. I'm not going to apply. I literally gave up, and I fell into depression. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything. And although I've always considered myself to be very determined, like I said, I always, ever since I graduated, ever since I started university, I always intended to graduate with a first, to take a placement year, because I thought, this is what will open many doors for me. And then when I didn't get that job, I was just like, okay, I give up. And then a few weeks later, when I got the job that I'm currently doing now, and it's been over a year now that I've been with my company, and it's been amazing. And I hope that many people, many Latinas and Latinos can learn from this. I'd say, it's okay to take a break sometimes, but don't give up. Even if there's no hope, there's always a plan. I'm a strong believer of, I believe in God, so that's one thing that kind of helps me a little bit. I know it goes down to like personal experiences and beliefs and norms and stuff, but in my experience, that helps me a lot. And kind of finding a balance within myself mentally, also being mindful about my situation, and instead of looking at it from the negative perspective and thinking, I don't have a job, I thought, well, okay, let me take what the positives out of this and see what I can do differently. So before I got this job, one day I woke up thinking, I want to do something different. And I called my friend she had a graduate job, and she was trying to find something better. And I said, are you up for going to at this point, I thought the perfect path that I wanted to be in was to be part of the corporate world. So initially I wanted to work for a bank, and I said, are you up for going to Canary Wharf and handing out CVs personally, like physically, just randomly going up to strangers and just asking, is your company recruiting? And that's not something that you daily see or anyone's asked. Like, usually applications are done online and stuff, but I thought, why not? What have I got to lose? And I did it. We went out, handed out CVs. Turns out we met this person who, to this day, we considered a mentor, because he helped us a lot, and he helped us with the revision of our CVs. He reviewed our CVs, gave us feedback, gave us a lot of advice. So sometimes, like I said, it's good to kind of hear it from someone else that has already experienced similar situations. So that helped us a lot. So my CV was basically like brand new, and so I decided to carry on applying. Don't give up, Juliana. I kept telling myself every day, don't give up, but then at the same time, I just felt very negative sometimes, and like I said, I needed to find that sort of mental balance, and I did. And when I finally got my job, it literally happened out of nowhere. I think everything in life happens for a reason, and I work in fraud. So I work for a fintech that has fraud solutions for banks. So at the moment, I'll talk about that a bit later, about what I do. But when I got my job, it was just out of nowhere. And before I got the job, I had been a victim of fraud myself, bank fraud. And then getting a job in that field, it was like, wow, was that a sign? Like, was it meant to be? And out of, I think it was 5 finalists, the final stage was a presentation. And I've always thought that ever since college and school and stuff, I never thought myself to be a very good presenter. But then it turns out that when I asked for feedback, a lot of my friends said to me, no, you actually are very good at presenting, like you are. So it's sometimes a lot of things are just in your head. So out of 5 finalists, I got the job, and I was the only one without any previous professional experience. All of them had experience, and that's what usually companies ask for, experience. But these companies decided to give me the opportunity based on what they saw in my presentation, and obviously based on what I offered as a person. And a lot of people advised me, and I started to do a lot of research and started to listen to a lot of inspirational speeches and stuff like that. And to this day, I would say to anyone that's going through the same thing that I went through or something similar, especially now during this pandemic, which might be more challenging to find a job, or to know what to know what's right for you or what you want to get into, I would always advise to people, be yourself. Like, don't always think, oh, let me kind of let me say what I think they want to hear from me. No, I decided to be completely transparent about who I was, instead of going so much over like so many notes and revising the same usual thing that everyone says. Oh yeah, I'm very responsible, I'm very organized, I'm very determined, the usual. I just decided to be myself and talk about my experiences and how those experiences have helped me build who I am today. So I think I spoke a bit too much on that question there.
No, it's fine, honestly. No, I mean, it's definitely been quite the journey for you then, really. I mean, sort of backing up a little bit, I mean, what you sort of were saying initially was like, you had these plans in your mind of, you were very determined from the get-go, and you were like, okay, well, if I get a first class, then it should put me in good stead to kickstart my career, which makes perfect sense. And I mean, I think what you've also demonstrated through your experiences is, I guess, a mix of two things: is the resilience, to carry on and not give up and carry on applying. But then also something which you said was, sometimes it's okay to take a break and to not necessarily doubt, but I guess in those sort of, when you take that break, literally, recover energy, get sort of rest and then go again, because at the end of the day, in your mind, your goal was never shaken, really. You knew what your goal was, but at certain moments, you were afflicted, so you were sort of weak at some point because you were sort of sad that things weren't working out. So no, it's really good, and obviously it's really great that you found the role at the end that you wanted, and it's like you said, you've been there for over a year now. So yeah, sometimes I think it is a case of just a matter of timing, a matter of persisting and not stopping, and unfortunately it's not that easy anymore to sort of get a job straight out of uni. And despite having the grades, having grades is really good, and obviously it's great, but it seems like a lot, experience seems to be very, very important nowadays, like getting work experience, professional experience, or like in your case, you were looking for the placement as well, which definitely makes a difference. So, I mean, going through all of that now, so right now, like you said, you work for a fintech company, which they give, they provide fraud prevention solutions to banks. Is that what you said, right?
Yeah. So what we provide is called fraud orchestration.
Right.
It's kind of a new way of approaching fraud. So there are many fraud systems, fraud detection, fraud prevention systems. We aren't one of those. We are an orchestrator, so it is something different. We are an innovator in that aspect.
Right.
So with that comes a challenge as well. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So for the people who have no idea what fraud orchestration means, what exactly does fraud orchestration entail? So how does that differ from the other sort of fraud solutions that are out there?
Okay, so typically a bank has many fraud detection and prevention systems. They all have their own rules, their own sort of processes, their own models. And what we do, we orchestrate all these systems, including not only fraud systems, but like customer service systems, compliance systems, even core banking systems. And I always like to make this comparison. It's as if you had a car and you didn't have a dashboard where you could see if you needed more petrol, if your tires needed some maintenance, I don't know, some air, just kind of somewhere where you can see everything that you need in order to see if something is functioning well. So that is what we do, because at the moment, systems in banks and finance institutions work in isolation. So there are a lot of silos between them, and our aim with fraud orchestration and automation and response, as we call it, is to close those gaps so that fraud departments and make it easier for any other departments within a bank to see what happens under one layer, the unified layer. Right.
Okay, I see. Okay, so you're sort of bringing together all of the tools that a company may have against fraud and sort of delivering like a sort of like they've got like a comprehensive solution against fraud, basically, from what you're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, I see. Okay, so going now a bit into your actual role. So you work as a business development manager. Now, that role typically varies across companies, depending on the company's industry and their needs and, sort of what their sort of targets are. But in your case, working with your company, what do you specifically do as a business development manager?
Okay, so in my company, I work very closely with the CEO, the CTO, and the COO. We are a very small team. There are over 60 developers that we have, but directly I work with CEO, CTO, and COO. CCO, sorry. And what I do, I get to touch many aspects of the business. So essentially, business development is people think it's just sales, but working for a fintech, in my particular experience, the main advantage is that I get to touch many aspects of the business, like I said. So naturally, my output is directly very proportional to the company's growth.
Okay.
I'm exposed to the technological side, commercial side, marketing. For instance, right now I manage all of our international partnerships and a lot of our sales processes, a lot of our marketing, a lot of our events and stuff like that. So yeah, I wouldn't say I have the expertise of only one field. Right. I'm exposed to many domains within the company.
Okay,
so yeah, essentially there is a high market exposure.
Yeah, so it's very hands-on. There's a lot of stuff to do, and that's good. I think it's like you said. I guess in sometimes when companies are not necessarily these massive multinational companies, when you've got a role, you're able to be exposed to more different activities and more things than just a traditional person would be in a big company, because like you said, you're working with the CEO, the CTO, and the COO, and in larger companies it can be quite hard actually to be working directly with the CEO. So
yeah. Exactly. I would say that fintech is a sector in which the growth is limitless. So there's no limit. Like I've got a lot of my friends who work in the corporate world right now. A lot of them have moved on to work to the fintech sector, because there's there's so many opportunities to grow within. And even now I've got a friend who works in audit for a finance institution, and he even tells me he wants to jump on the fintech world, because it's just so, there's the market exposure is so high, and the growth, like I said, the growth is limitless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, from just sort of my own professional experience, fintech is definitely a booming market. And you've got, especially, well, in your case, your company, they provide solutions to banks, which 100% specifically, this is just from my sort of reading and stuff. You've got smaller banks like Monzo and Tide, and smaller companies with banks that have set up, and sometimes their security processes aren't as as strong as larger companies, larger banks which are very established. And so definitely, you've got companies or banks that would be very interested in having the solutions that your company provides to sort of help them with the whole onboarding process and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. You mentioned Monzo, and there's so many neobanks that are emerging in the market. I'm an investor for Monzo myself, and I've actually had the chance to meet the CEO face to face, and the head of financial crime, global head of financial crime. And yeah, it's true. I mean, fraud is on the increase, and banks don't always have their security measures in place as they should, and they end up losing so much money.
Yeah.
And they end up losing customers because there's so much customer friction.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. Okay. And so currently, I mean, like you said, you've been in the role, for over a year. So what would you say has been one of the things that you've enjoyed the most so far in your role?
I would say the fact that I get to touch so many aspects in the business, and the opportunity to be able to interact with so many people. Although I know we have a small team, like I said, I manage all the partnerships, and I've had the opportunity to travel with my company already. And I mean, now it's a bit challenging because there were so many plans that we had in regards to new approaches and stuff, but this crisis has kind of put everything on hold. But I would say being able to, I've always been very fascinated by technology, and there was a module in uni that I never forget. It was called human computer interaction, and I actually worked quite hard in that module and ended up getting a first. And a lot of the insight and a lot of the experiences I went through in that module helped me a lot with this, because I get to work directly with our products, so I'm always kind of working on the demo environment of our platform, our solution. And also the fact that I speak Spanish, I get to lead all the partnerships and all our relationships with all the Spanish-speaking countries. So in South America and Spain, I'm daily talking to different partners, different prospects and stuff, and working on new projects with them. So also I get to kind of revise everything because our product is also in Spanish. So I get to do a lot of translations. So yeah, being able to use all my abilities to help the company and grow with it at the same time, it's nice. It's just amazing, to be honest, because I get, like I said, I get to grow with the company. As it grows, I grow as well. And so that's my experience and my knowledge.
Yeah. No, that is a very unique opportunity, to be able to be exposed to so many different experiences, like what you're saying, you're able to basically have insight into all of these different aspects of the business and grow. So it is very unique. And in hindsight, perhaps other roles that you were applying for, maybe they wouldn't have given you that opportunity to grow, because when the end of the day, after a few years in your current role, you're going to have much more experience to someone who's just limited to one aspect of a business.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, it seems like everything worked out for the best.
Yes, exactly. I mean, yeah, definitely. I believe everything happens for a reason, and where we are right now is where we're meant to be.
Yeah. No, 100%, 100%. Okay, so you know, as like I said, you've been in the role for quite some time now. So what would you say is also one of the challenges though that you have faced, not necessarily in your role, but perhaps in the industry that you've seen?
Mm-hmm. Well, initially, I would say that the main challenge was maybe the lack of experience.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've always been a strong believer of, like I said, positive change, and I always hope to see all these challenges and negatives and turn them into positives.
Mm-hmm.
I guess so that was probably the main challenge initially, the lack of experience, but that, you know, with time, I managed to build that up, and with the right people around me that supported me and helped me, and having my manager as a role model at the moment within the company is just great, because that's helped me a lot. And I guess currently we can all relate to, in regards to current challenges within the industry, we are facing them due to COVID. In the industry I'm in, it's mostly been affected in the way that it's affected every interaction. So for instance, like I said, I manage our international partnerships, which means that I'm not able to travel and meet our partners face to face, and instead everything is done remotely. So we lack that human touch, and that to me is key when making connections and, you know, interacting with other human beings, because to me it's all about, you know, that human touch.
Yeah. And that would have been something that you would have, you know, typically be involved in, so traveling to other countries to visit clients and stuff.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I've already traveled with the company. I mean, within 1 month of joining the company, I was already. Bear in mind, I didn't really know much about the industry, about our products. I didn't really know much, and I was already presenting in Spanish to a bank in Chile, and that was within a month. So I was already kind of pushing myself, challenging myself. My manager said to me, you know, we've got this opportunity. Are you ready? And I said, I'm not, but I'll make sure I am, you know. And and then within 2 months, I was already in Spain talking to in the headquarters of Santander, and that was, I mean, you know, that's not something I would have maybe experienced if I joined a graduate scheme or something, let's say.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that sounds fantastic, actually. You know, like you I feel like from the conversation we're having, it definitely seems like you've hit like a jackpot with your role. So I'm really happy to hear that's the case with you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So what do you sort of envision being the long-term plan for you then?
I would say for now, I'm happy where I am, and I believe, obviously, long-term plans, I guess a lot of people can relate to me. A lot of my friends, a lot of people that I know would say the same thing. I don't think we all want to work the typical 9 to 5 for the rest of our lives. So right now, I'm just envisioned in kind of building up my exposure, my knowledge, my experiences, and enhancing them daily with, and taking advantage of my role. Because like you said, I'm exposed to a lot of areas within the company.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to take advantage of it and make sure. I've got a lot of plans on the side. I do want to start my own thing. But to be able to do that, I've got to build some more experience, obviously capital, more knowledge, and so in the long run, there are a lot of opportunities. I mean, I can't really disclose much, but the company, we currently are working on a big project where we we'll be launching some new products, and we are going to be part of something much bigger. So in regards to that, I do have, thankfully, the security is quite rewarding in the company at the moment, so I haven't been affected by that. So yeah, in the long run, I am going to be part of something that a bit bigger within the industry, and have the opportunity to get involved with other stuff. So yeah.
Okay, great. No, that sounds really good, and I definitely wish you the best of luck with the plans for the future.
Diego.
Okay, so finally, so we can sort of enter into the final portion of today's episode. It's been really good to talk to you and to understand your journey, and also get some insight into fintech, because like I said, it's a very interesting field. So, like you said, you obviously had your struggles, you found it quite difficult to get a job initially. What would you say would be the sort of the one piece of advice that you'd give to our listeners, or to someone who maybe is going through a similar situation that you were going through, and how to also pull through in that similar situation?
Yeah, like I said, I would advise people to feel free to take a break, and always feel free to express your emotions, to be able to find that balance within yourself and never give up. Don't be afraid. I would advise people to network as much as they can. If I could give my younger self advice back then, I would probably really encourage myself to network more, and probably take a placement year to explore different options. I kind of, back then I felt like, oh no, I've already not wasted, but I've already spent 1 year out of education. I kind of just want to get this over and done with. I wanted to graduate and get a job, but I thought it was going to be much easier than it was. But yeah, just don't give up. Just and always feel free to take a break whenever you feel like you need it. We're all humans at the end of the day. We're all full of emotions, and we need to express them somehow. And yeah, there's always the resolution to succeed. It's very particular to each individual. So who am I, or who is anyone to say that anyone is doing anything wrong? I mean, everyone's within their own rights, and it takes a lot of courage to grow up. And we all have a duty of self-development, and I don't think we should ever forget that. And I think there's always a price of success, and that should always be hard work, dedication, and always devotion to the things that you want to see happen in your life. And yeah, so that I think that's like the main thing that I would say to other people, other individuals that are going through or feel like they are facing similar situations that I faced back then.
Yeah, no, I agree, and thank you for that, Juliana, for sharing that. Okay, so thank you very much for agreeing to come on. It's been absolutely great to talk to you.
Thank you.
To get to know your journey, your professional journey. And like I said, I wish you the very best for your future plans. And you're definitely in a very exciting field. So I'm sure you're going to also enjoy it, and it's going to be very pleasurable for you as well. So thank you, Juliana, for agreeing to come on. It's been great to talk to you, and I'm sure that our listeners would have enjoyed today's episode.
Thank you so much, Diego. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. And thank you for doing this, because you are encouraging and kind of helping all individuals out there who kind of need that little push or some sort of advice from people that have experienced the real world, or we can all learn from this. So thank you for doing this, especially for the Latin community, who I believe we are unique and distinctive, and maybe not very much recognized within especially, I mean, the UK as a whole. So yeah, that's a really great job you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Juliana. I appreciate it. Okay, everyone, thank you very much for tuning into today's episode. It's been great to have you with us, and it's been absolutely great to talk to Juliana today. As always, you can tune into our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube by searching British Latino Network. Until next time, bye-bye.